Grace, my future wife, Part 10. A Dream, an Open Letter. February 27th, 2024, 11:35 a.m. Location, Starbucks. Dear Grace, yesterday sucked. I tried to write a letter to you but couldn't. Every word sucked. I'm sorry for the childish language, but a man of my age should know better, and a writer of any age could find a more interesting word, not me. One of my age-based jokes, Grace, is about my beard, or about my inability to grow a beard most of my life. I was 55 before I could grow anything close to a full face of hair, and by then it was salt and peppered. Most of my life it was patchy like a teenager. It grew a bit more in each year, but seriously, 55 years to complete puberty? It seems extreme, Grace. The only gray hair I have now is in my beard and eyebrows. I'm vain though, unplucked them, Grace. The eyebrows. On a positive note, after finally getting to sleep, I had an interesting dream about you/us. Well, I assume it was Grace/me. I was getting married in the dream, and I'm not interested in anyone but you, so I'll assume. Again. It's a bit weird, Grace. More like a movie idea than recalling a dream. Although I suppose if two people were weird enough, they might behave as I'm about to describe. I'll write it out like a movie idea, Grace. It's the easiest way for me to describe the dream. We'll see where it goes. Movie idea, untitled. Dave, an incredibly handsome senior, walks up to a calico cat on the sidewalk and scratches her head. The cat rolls on its back and Dave sits on the sidewalk to visit his feline friend. Dave loves all cats. He's not sure why. A blue SUV pulls up and stops near Dave. The back door opens and inside is the most beautiful woman he's ever seen, wearing the brightest pink sweater he's ever seen. You, Grace. Grace stares at David while he continues to pet the cat without breaking eye contact with her. Grace picks up a brown envelope and a pair of handcuffs lying by her side and presents them to Dave. What's it going to be? Dave realizes this is absolutely his Grace, the one he's been writing to openly for months. He knows her intention. The envelope is a response to his letters, and the handcuffs are a test to the future love. Having waited for this moment, or for a moment like this, Dave takes a breath like it might be his last, pets the cat again, and makes his decision by pointing to the handcuffs. In the back seat, Dave and Grace sit in silence. Dave's left wrist is attached to Grace's right. They hold hands but do not make eye contact. They stare at the back of the seats. Dave wonders who's driving. Grace, sensing the question, these are my parents. Dave, hi. Grace's dad begins to drive the SUV with her mom riding shotgun. They are silent. Everyone is silent. They arrive at a hotel. Dave follows Grace out her door. Grace's parents escort the couple up to a room, open the door for them, and hand them a single key, awkwardly hug their daughter, shake Dave's hand, and leave. No word spoken. If this sounds fucked, Grace, it gets weirder. I don't know where dreams come from, or story ideas, but I don't question the source. I simply write them out, hope one day someone will notice them and give me $1 million, or a few thousand, whatever. I realize so far it looks like either you or your parents are weird, but we'll see where this leads. Also, I call you the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I'm not sure it's true, but if you are who I think you are, it is true. However, I don't deserve it, your beauty. I've been lucky times before. I've been lucky many times before with hot partners/wives. Well, maybe not many. I've been lucky times before with hot partners/wives. I don't think I deserve any more than I've already received. However, I remember you clearly in the dream, if that was you, and the image is stuck in my head. Pretty Grace in the pretty pink sweater. Grace, are you ready? Dave, should I carry you over the threshold? Grace, can you? Dave, I'm not sure. How much do you weigh? Grace almost replies but stops and gives Dave a nice try, mister look. Dave ignores the look. I would if we didn't have these handcuffs. Grace, it's fine. We're not married and I'm not that traditional. Plus I don't want you to break a hip at your advanced age. Dave, oh, so that's how it's going to be? Old man jokes? Grace, maybe. Dave, fine. By all means, young ladies first. Grace starts to enter the room, but Dave stands motionless, letting the handcuff enter movement. Grace realizes his game. Really? Dave, you've read my letters to you, yes? Grace, yes. Dave, isn't this to test our compatibility, our ability to make decisions together, our chance to learn everything about the other person in what, 7 days? Grace, maybe more, maybe less. Dave, okay, I'm ready to enter. Grace and Dave enter the room. It's nothing special, not the presidential suite, but it has a nice kitchen sitting area. They walk over to the bedroom and notice one bed, a very large king-size bed. For a split second, Dave and Grace stare at it together, then do a double take and pretend it doesn't exist. Dave, can I ask you a question? Grace, of course. Dave, how old are you? Grace, 29. Dave, okay. I lied in my letters. I'm not 58. Sorry. Okay, I lied in my letters. I'm 58, not 60. But since you're half my age, it still works perfectly. My dreams often incorporate my real life, Grace. Although to be fair, none of my past dreams have ever come true. I hope this one does come true. I'm reading almost 1,000 words per hour, Grace. Is that good? Of course, I'm not correcting my spelling errors. If I did that, it'd be wrong. 500 an hour. Back to the movie. Grace, more questions? Dave, a million. What do we do? Grace, talk, read, sleep, eat, write, walk, whatever you like. Dave, whatever? Assuming Dave means sex, Grace blushes. She feels the blood rushing to her face and tries to force it down. She fails. Dave, blushing back with mutual embarrassment. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Grace, oh. I assume the envelope was a letter to me if I didn't accept your handcuff offer? Grace, yes. Dave, can I read it anyway? Grace, I'm not sure. Alone, yes, but I don't think we'll be alone for a while. Dave. Okay, so let's set up the ground rules of this experiment. I assume we can take these cuffs off at any time. Is there even a key? Grace, yes, I have the keys. Grace pulls 2 keys out of her pocket and sets them on the table. However, if we decide to continue, we can remove these and wear some more comfortable cuffs, which I could only find at a sex boutique. Grace flushes. Dave mirrors uncontrollably. Dave, why are we embarrassed? Grace, I don't know. Dave, I feel like I should be, like I'm doing something wrong. Grace, we are not. This was your idea. I'll explain why, how later, if that's okay. Dave, yes, I'll assume we have plenty to discuss. Grace, eventually. Dave, rules. Grace, whatever we determine. Dave, do you agree with the following? The cuffs stay on our wrist 24/7 except when one of us needs to change clothing above our waists. Grace, okay. Dave, but we'll stay in the same room and pretend we are still connected, or we could chain our ankles. Grace, overkill. Same room is fine. Dave, okay. Otherwise, it's continual, no breaks. We can switch arms if needed, but until we figure this out, we are connected, or until we decide to marry, or never see each other again. Fair enough? Grace, fair enough. Dave, should we shake on it? Grace and Dave awkwardly shake hands. Dave, now what? Grace, how about a cup of coffee? Dave sarcastically, sounds good, bring me one on the couch. Grace laughs. They walk into the kitchen and work together to make a pot of coffee. They work in near silence. Dave handling the right side of the operation, and Grace the left. Sitting on the couch together, Grace breaks the ice. I'll need to use the washroom in 30 minutes or less. Any thoughts? Dave, can you pee in the dark? Grace, who said it was number 1? Dave, yikes. Can you do your business in the dark? Grace, most of it. Dave, toilet paper poop check? Grace, exactly. And why can't you just close your eyes? Dave, I'll get dizzy. Grace, dizzy? Dave, yes. You know when the room starts to spin around, but I can turn around and look at the floor while you do your business. Grace, okay. Dave, this is so ass backwards, pardon the possible pun. Grace, agreed. Dave, do you think this will work? Not the bathroom. Us? Grace, I'm willing to try. Dave, I have no choice. Grace, you have a choice, Dave. It's the first time Grace has addressed him by name. Dave grimaces at the sound of her saying it. It's weird yet familiar, like she's been talking to him as an old friend for years, not hours. Grace, scared when I say your name? Dave, no, it's just odd. It feels like you've been calling me Dave for centuries. Plus, as you know from my letters, I haven't had a conversation in years. I barely recognize my name. Grace, I understand. Now is your chance. Grace holding up the cuffs. Captive audience? Dave smiles. He looks into Grace's eyes and realizes he's screwed. He's in love. Grace returns the feeling. They lock eyes and begin crying together. Dave, through tears. Can we turn the lights out? Together, Dave and Grace turn the lights out, close the curtains, and return to the couch to cry in anonymity. I don't know why I use that word. I can't fucking say it. They hold hands but refrain from hugging. It seems too much for both of them. Neither is willing to make the first move. The tears slow down, and 15 minutes later Grace states, "It's time." Dave, time? Grace, bathroom. Good news, only number one. Dave snickers. Okay. Grace, we can keep the lights out in the washroom now, I think. I'm getting used to the dark and no poop check required. Dave, sounds good. With only the ambient light in the room, Dave and Grace navigate to the toilet. While Grace urinates what seems to be very loudly, Dave looks at the floor. Are you embarrassed, Grace? Grace, not in the dark. Dave, okay. Grace suddenly realizes the problem, the logic of everything, and asks, "How did you find me, Grace? How did you know I wrote those letters?" Grace, you left too many clues. I knew I could find you by stalking libraries and Starbucks. Once you shared a few photos, it was easy to find the areas you were visiting. Dave, sure, but how did you know it was me? Grace, I don't want to say while I'm sitting in the toilet half naked with a man I've never talked to in person until today. Dave, fair enough. Do you tell me in the letters you wrote? Dave, fair enough, but do you tell me in the letters you wrote to me? Grace, yes. Dave, so cough up. Unless you're still peeing. Don't cough and pee. With Dave still staring at his feet, Grace stands up and pulls her pants up with one hand. As they return to the living room, Grace tells Dave, "I had a friend spy on you." Dave, spy? Grace, I had a friend sit beside you and look at your computer screen until you brought up your Twitter account. Dave, which is linked to my Substack, and the rest is history. Grace, basically. Are you mad at me? Dave, no, I'd done the same if I was in your position. But how did you know it was me? I never described anything physical about me, and I'm obviously not an extremely handsome senior like I described myself. Grace avoiding Dave's eyes. It wasn't just friends. I looked too, and my family helped. We looked for an old guy who looked like a writer, and you fit the description. It took a while to find you. I'm afraid we spied on more than a few old men in front of a laptop. Dave, I'm still confused. Grace, David, I'll get to everything in time. You will eventually understand. I'm sorry, it's not easy to explain. Dave, feeling like he was put in place by his mother with the David told, gives up. Okay. I realize, Grace, that for a dream this is a considerable amount of dialogue that I've remembered. I don't have a perfect memory, Grace, but sometimes my dreams feel so real. It's more like recalling an actual experience instead of a dream. However, this was not a lucid dream, Grace. I had no control. If it was, and you looked like the woman in my dreams, I think the handcuffs would have been used to attach me to the bed while you take advantage of me for hours. Too much, Grace? Back to the story. Grace flushes. Dave, are lights okay now? Grace, yes. Grace washes her hand and accidentally parted Dave's left, which was forced to stand nearby during the cleaning. David, remembering his experience with a broken hand and barely being able to wipe with his left hand, realizes Grace may have struggled. Are you left-handed? Grace, no, but I wipe with either. I read your letters, Dave. It's different for girls. We are used to feeling around down there. Isn't that what you said in your first or second letter? Dave, right, I forgot you're a step ahead of me, thanks to your spies. Grace, family and friends. Dave, whatever. Dave, so I guess it's your turn. Tell me your story or let me read it, whichever you prefer. Grace, can you read in the dark? Dave, why? Grace, I don't want to see your facial expressions while you read. Dave, why? Grace, because when you write, you show your emotions on your face. I can basically match it to your letters. Dave, are you recording me while I write? Grace, I've watched you and then read the letter the next day. It's obvious to me, David. Dave. Grace, okay. Dave, where did you watch? Grace, library. Dave, okay. Dave, how about a blindfold? I don't mind if you sit in your own darkness while I read. Does that work for you? You're already handcuffed. How much worse could a blindfold be? Grace, yes, that's fine. but I don't have a blindfold. Dave takes off his cuff, removes his hoodie, and hands it to Grace. Understanding, she puts it on, pulls it over her eyes, and tightens the string until she looks like a child heading out to play in the snow. Grace, does it ruin the experiment if I grab another copy of my letters to you out of the suitcase while we are detached? Dave looks around the room until he spots a travel bag. Sure. Grace retrieves another envelope from the suitcase, returns to the couch, hands it to Dave, and reattaches her cuff. Here you go. There's more to the story, Grace, but I'm tired of writing, or tired because of writing. I'll continue it more tomorrow. I'd say sorry to leave you hanging, but if you really are Grace, you already know how the story ends, no? I might be getting lost in my own circle of logic, Grace. On another note, here's a link to a news story out of Vancouver. A restaurant was punished for allowing patrons to dance on New Year's Eve. Sure, they were also over capacity, but the offense they were charged with was dancing in a restaurant. How silly is this, Grace, or how fucking stupid? I wish we were together right now, Grace, and I'd take you to that restaurant and dance with you. We'll video everything and they can throw us out. Or the police can come arrest us for dancing. How fucking stupid is this world, Grace? I dreamt about our first dance, Grace. I wonder how close it'll be to real life. Will it be at our wedding or before? As usual, thanks for reading/listening, Grace. Here's a video of two tugboats on the river. One is following the other. I've never seen this before. One is towing the other. I've never seen this before. Question. If the first boat stops short and the second boat rubs into the first, is this considered a rub and tug? Grace, please do not let me make jokes like this on stage. Is it okay if I work these crappy jokes out on you? Unless you thought that was funny, then feel free to encourage me. I can't wait to meet you, Grace. David Joseph.